No matter what the weather, Trish will always find something to do. And right now is a very important time if you want to get some spring colour, because today's show is going to be all about planting bulbs, what you need to know and how you need to do it. Let's go find Trish and find out what we need to know. So here we are again in Boyles, and we found ourselves a nice little table. We've got ourselves some space and lots of bulbs. All we needed now is our expert, Trish. How are you doing, Trish?
I'm very good, Alan, thank you.
Good. Right, so we've got more planting.
Yes.
Last week we brought a beautiful autumn colour to hopefully everyone's garden and some pots, and gave you some great ideas all over the winter. And right now we're thinking about spring.
We are. And now is the time to be thinking of it.
And now is the time.
Believe me, when spring comes and the daffodils and tulips come up, people go, oh, when do you plant the bulbs? I forgot. So now is the time to do it.
So that's a big question, obviously, you get.
It is. Yeah. It is always,
all the time.
every year. So the best time to plant bulbs is September, October. Usually September, October for the daffodils and the majority of bulbs. Tulips can be a little bit later, but not too late either. So by the end of October, really, you'd aim to have all your bulbs planted. You can plant them later, but the only thing then is that they won't flower to their full potential then next spring. So if you can get them down September, October, brilliant. I suppose always as well, people wonder, where do I plant bulbs? How do I plant bulbs? So the most important thing is not to have them in a very wet place. Because if you can imagine, if I have an empty bulb, if you have your bulb here, right,
and if
that's
sitting in water,
it's
going to rot.
It's not even going to get to the stage where even there's a little bit of green coming out of it. It'll just rot over it.
It turns into fertiliser.
It does,
you know,
yeah.
It'll just be
a mush. Now, I suppose the thing is, when you get your bulbs as well, always to check them. Now, they should be all fresh in the pack, but you might get one that's rotted or soft. So just to firm it like that, they should be nice and firm when you're planting them. Nice and firm. If they're anyway soft, they're usually rotten. But you won't get rotten ones really unless you plant them very, very late in December and the packet has been there and it's been sweating or whatever.
Okay, so let's talk about the areas, because as you said, people are kind of wondering, where will I plant them? And then when? So obviously, would you need a couple of dry days if you were going out into your garden doing it? Would you need a couple of dry days?
Yeah, you would, because you don't want the soil to be too wet or too messy or whatever, sticky. It just makes it all a bit harder. So as you say, if you had a nice couple of dry days, but first of all, most important is to go around your garden and go, where do I need colour in the springtime? Because a lot of the place, you usually kind of have it kind of up near the house or maybe along streams or underneath trees and stuff like that. If you're not going to be going down the garden, down the very bottom of the garden in springtime, because you don't want to be going through the lawn if it's wet or anything like that, keep your bulbs up at your beds at the front, into your pots. Like last week we done a pot up, we put some bulbs into it. That's another idea. If you have flower beds then up near the house, plant them in groups together. Don't plant a single bulb, because it won't make any effect whatsoever.
I guess, and that's it. It's like it's the lack of impact, because you know, while you know, on the packet one might look beautiful, but in a bulk, we've always talked about it here, about the black colour. And
it's so important with bulbs. Like one bulb will form 1 to 3 flowers, right, this year, but obviously next year they get bigger and bigger as time goes on. So it's important with spacing then as well. You don't want them all one on top of the other, because they're fine for the first year, but then they have nowhere to grow and spread out for the following year. And if they get too congested on top of one another, they won't flower or perform well.
So are all of the bulbs and stuff we're talking about today, are the majority of them, they will keep coming back?
Oh, they will.
They will.
Oh, yes.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah. So what happens is that you put them down now. They'll flower in the springtime, they'll die away in the spring, and you just leave them there and they'll come away up every year. So there's no hassle with them, and they are fantastic for giving that bit of extra colour in the springtime. So as I was saying, if you have a shrub bed and there's soil down, now obviously if you've got the black mypex and the stone, you can't put your bulbs down. No, you can't put your bulbs down. So if you've got an area where there's just soil, it's absolutely perfect. So say for example then that you're in a windy place, you want to keep that into consideration. If you're in a windy place, there's no point planting tulips that are going to grow to 2.5 feet high. They'll get flattened after the first day. So go for your dwarf tulips that will grow to 8 inches. They're nice and compact and they're sturdy. Put maybe 5 to 7 in a group together. Depending on the size of the bed, you can go bigger groups then. And in that 5 to 7, they will actually protect each other, hold each other up, and you'll get a good display of colour from that group. So you can put a group here, you can go up a bit further, put a group, and just keep going around the bed putting groups. Some people like it symmetrical, all depends on your garden. Say for example, you've got a very formal garden, maybe boxes or whatever, and you want to keep it formal, then you can go your straight line.
Okay.
And you keep them then about maybe 4 to 5 inches apart, so that they're like soldiers then along a straight line to keep that formal look. So it really depends on your area, whether you're out in the country, you're inside an apartment, that you've got a small little garden out the front or whatever. You really have to take your garden into consideration, and that's where we here in the garden centre can help you decide what way to plant them, what to plant, how to plant them, and what size to be getting at the end of the day.
Excellent. So we saw just there at the start of my little intro the selection.
Yes.
Okay, so people are going to come in and they're going to go, oh my God, there's so much selection and stuff like that.
Yes.
But there's a lot of information just here on the front, on the packaging.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah,
That's
like even the one
thing
that you have there in front of you, it basically says that it flowers in April, when to plant them, which is September to December.
Yeah.
And then it gives you the flowering height, which is quite important as well, which is 40 centimetres. I mean, that's everything you need to know. Now, I suppose when you are planting them, a lot of people wonder, how deep down do I go with them? Can I just barely put them down underneath the ground?
It doesn't show that. Oh, it does.
It does, yeah, no, at the back of it. Yeah,
and
the back it does.
Planting depth, it says here, for this tulip would be 15 centimetres, and spacing is there as well too, and the height. So that's great. So all the information is there.
It's all there. But say if you generally pick up loose bulbs, some places sell them loose as well, and you don't have the packaging when you go home. The general rule of thumb for planting bulbs is to go down about 3 times their depth. No matter what size the bulb is, go down 3. So I've got a tulip bulb here, which is what, about 1 inch? Yeah. So you're going up about this far then.
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah.
So give good and deep, because if you plant them too shallow, they won't perform well, they won't flower well.
Yeah, because you've got to realise, obviously people will realise then, is that over the winter, there's going to be frosts. So the lower down they are, the more chance that they're going to have to go through that and not be affected by the frost.
Exactly.
So giving them that bit of space to let them sit, get their root system sorted out, and then once the frost is all gone, they'll break through.
And they will, and also as well, it stops little animals from digging them up if they're down a little bit deeper as well. So that would be an idea as well.
Anyone little foraging and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, so I suppose like that, we have a great selection.
Huge selection. My
even
word.
This year now, I just start with the tulips alone. If anybody's looking at us, again, as I say, there's tall tulips and there's the dwarf ones.
Okay.
I have a lovely dwarf red one here, which is a Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh, beautiful.
Now that's a fabulous little one. Can be used in pots or small little beds as well.
Yeah,
and if you like a mixture of colour, I've got them in the mix as well.
Excellent.
Now the height of them will only grow to about 8 inches, like 20 centimetres high, in and around that. And then you have the tall tulips.
Okay.
Now again, you can get them in all different colours. I have got the oranges. I've even got a lovely Queen of the Night, which is
that's
kind of
the beautiful
a very
dark, deep purple. That is a beautiful one.
I mean, if you had that with maybe a lovely little white around it, a little white crocus, one would bring up the colour of the other. But this year then we've got a lot of unusual ones.
Now this is these really
I know you were looking at them earlier.
They really struck me because there's one here, if anyone wants to see it on Facebook and YouTube, it's called the Labrador, and it looks like it'd eat you.
Yes, it does. It looks like something that's going to catch flies.
It is
it's
so different
because it's so different. But you can imagine the petal on a tulip is so fine and so tender, whatever, and like the detail on that is absolutely.
And for anyone who's just listening on the radio, this has literally got it's like spikes at the kind of top, but they're all soft.
Yes.
But it's got this real kind of unusual, exotic look. Is what I'd say.
Exactly.
An exotic look.
And we have other one. This is Parrot Prince. It's a lovely pink one, and again, it's just like with a tulip, they're always so perfect and it's just in the tulip shape. But this one then is kind of like a ruffled effect on the petals. And again, you have another one here. They're all double flowers on it as well, which would be quite unusual for tulips. Usually they're the single ones.
The single ones,
So there's a great selection. Come in and have a look, browse through it. Like the packs, you can either, there's 6 in this pack, there's 35 in this pack. You can get, you can get whatever suits you. You might need a load or you might need a lot.
Okay, so
that's the tulips. And then of course you have the daffodils.
Now I have the daffodils. Now of course we were using them last week in the pot as kind of a nice little separator, the tete-a-tetes, which we have them here in bags of 50. We also have the bigger bags as well too.
Yes, I have a bigger bag here.
Bigger bag is there.
3 kg, and we also will have the bigger bags as well, which will be at I think they're 10, 15 kgs, which would have about a couple of hundred bulbs in size.
So if you have a nice size garden,
nice big area, so whatever suits you, we do have the ones to suit, you know, and volume wise anyway as well.
So we've got the little miniature daffodils here, which are beautiful because they're kind of lots of different colours. They're mixed miniatures. There's white with a yellow cup. There's a yellow with an orange cup. There's an all yellow. You know, it's a
and you have to remember the flowers in them are small.
Small.
You know, even though they're miniature in size, it's miniature in flower size as well.
Okay.
So just to remember that. Whereas I have the bigger daffodil there. Now this one is Red Devon, which is the yellow with the lovely orange centre. But we also have the plain yellow common daffodil, which everybody loves. We have all them in stock as well. Excellent. So there's a great selection of the daffodils.
Now my favourite now are over here. We have the lovely, because this always reminds me of growing up, and I think that's it with a lot of people, really, isn't it?
It is.
A lot of people remember going through the fields, seeing the first sign of spring, and it's our snowdrops, it's our crocuses, and it's our bluebells.
I mean, anybody that goes into the Killarney National Park there in Knockreer and they look at the bluebells every year and they go, oh my goodness, I want that. So there's different types of bluebells that you can get as well. There's ones that naturalise, which means that they spread every year and they'll just kind of form an area great for underneath trees, woodland areas, kind of shady areas. Bluebells will be perfect. Now there is a Spanish bluebell and this one is a Dutch bluebell, right? And what is the difference is the Spanish one is very invasive. Well, not invasive in a bad way, but
it can just take over an area.
Too much. So you're better off with the Dutch growing ones, which are these bluebells. They're non-scripta. They have a very dark blue flower in them. Some of the bluebells can have very pale blue, but this would be the real one now. And it's a lovely dark blue and it just spreads enough to give a nice, and they're fabulous underneath trees.
And then of course I said the snowdrops, they're just so dainty and beautiful, flowering
they're
February
always the
to
first
March.
to come up.
Always the first to come up.
They're just a lovely sign of spring when they do come up. And then you have the crocuses.
Crocus. Yeah, and this is a mixed variety as well too. So you can literally have a mixed bag. There's white, purple, yellow, and then there's like a white and purple.
And a lovely way to plant crocuses now, if you have your lawn, right, and you just want a little bit of colour along the edges and very natural looking, just get your crocuses in your hand and just scatter them out. And wherever they land, plant them. And again, go down twice or 3 times the depth, the size of the bulb. They will flower in the spring. They'll be gone then before you even start mowing your lawn. So you needn't worry about all the foliage or anything like that. And they just give that little bit of splash of colour then in your lawn.
So after the last cut, it's a good one to throw them down.
Exactly.
And would you even just go around, Trish, and push them down into the ground?
Oh, push them down into the ground.
I was going to say, if they sit on the top, they're going to get drowned.
All bulbs have to go down into the ground. They can't be just left.
So you scatter them.
Scatter them and then go
push them down.
Yes. Now, you're not going to be digging big holes in your lawn. So even if you got a bamboo cane or something like a screwdriver or something strong, and just make a hole, and then pop it down and just firm it down over it, and that should do with that.
Excellent. Okay, so we've also got hyacinths here, and freesias, which are fantastic for scent.
Fragrance.
Fragrance.
Oh, if you want a bit of scent in the garden, like your hyacinths are absolutely fantastic. You can bring them inside in the house as well. Now, usually what you do, even if you want to, the kids can do it, get a little glass jar, sit your bulb on top of it, fill it with water. You will actually see then through the clear glass the roots coming.
Developing,
developing, and then your bulb will flower.
You know, I think I've seen that in class. They do that in some schools.
They do,
don't they?
Yeah, they do in schools, and it's a nice way to show kids how roots grow, or whatever. So it's a good one to have.
And there's different colours as well. You've got pinks, you've got purples, and whites, and blues.
Fantastic. And then you've got your freesia. Now this is one of my favourite flowers.
Yeah, I know. You've said it before.
It is absolutely fabulous. The scent of these are just beautiful. They're a little bit more difficult to grow, so I would kind of grow these in a pot, keep them in a nice warm place, and be better off. And then of course you've got your alliums then as well, which are great, and you've got your irises. There's just a huge selection of bulbs that we have in stock, so I'd say the best thing is to come in and have a look at what we have.
So listen, we don't have much time left in the show. I know you were kind of had there, we were maybe going to try and kind of plant some stuff, but what was will we just go through roughly the process?
What we were going to do, a lot of people want about layering a pot for bulbs, as in putting in different amount of bulbs. So it's again the same as last week. You put your stone in the bottom,
bottom,
and then you fill your compost up to about here, right? and you'd put in your first layer. Now what I had chosen was a tulip, right?
Yeah.
And now that one grows to 60 centimetres high.
Okay, so that's a real tall one.
So that's a real tall one.
Okay.
So that goes down in the bottom layer.
Right.
Now when you're doing it, you have your compost, you have your grit,
yeah,
and your stone is in the
Stone's
bottom.
in the bottom all for
you would plant them quite close together.
Right.
I know I had said when outdoors you leave the space for them to grow, but in a pot, you're usually just having the pot for the 1 year. You take the bulbs out and plant them into the ground the next year.
Next year, yeah.
So you'd be only planting them about 1 inch apart.
Okay.
Now for something the size of this pot, you're putting in around 15 bulbs per layer.
Okay.
Right? So you just dot them all around. You put 1, 2, 3, dot them all around, and then you cover it over with your compost and grit again.
Okay.
With about 2 to 3 inches of compost grit.
Okay. And then you go at the next level. So this is all about the layering.
It is the
process.
layering.
Okay.
So what I'm putting in next then is your daffodil.
Okay.
Now the daffodil grows to 40 centimetres.
Right, so again,
your tulip was 60.
Yeah.
Right. So you put your daffodil,
Getting
same thing, just check it, see that they're all hard or whatever, and put in your layer. Now people wonder, am I putting one on top of the other? It doesn't matter.
Okay.
They'll
find their space.
They'll find their space.
They'll find their space. Same again then?
Same
another
again.
2 or 3 inches?
No, right up to the top.
Oh, right
say
up the
about
top
2
now.
to 3
Okay.
inches from the top.
Okay.
And we're putting something small, which is the crocus.
Oh, beautiful.
Right? So the crocus, obviously, because of the size of the bulb,
Small
it wouldn't go
bulbs.
down as deep as the other. Of
course.
And with the crocus then, I just put them around the edge. I'm not going to put them in the middle.
Yeah.
So what you have then...
Let the tulips and the daffodils
come
burst up through the
so
middle, and
you
then
can
lovely
imagine now your
purple
tulip
crocus.
is up high like the soldiers, and then your daffodil is down lower, and then you have a surround then of your purple crocus.
Beautiful.
Now during the winter then, because the top of it is bare, you can actually layer it off with gravel, or you could plant your winter pansies on it.
Oh, you could put actually the
you could
pansies
put plants
over.
on top
oh,
of
right.
it.
Perfect.
So, and again,
so it's not just going to sit there.
Exactly. Going, what's
in,
did you do nothing with that pot, Ellen?
That'd be like, but I actually wouldn't have done anything with it. But anyway,
so just put your colour on top, and the bulbs will burst up through your colour.
Fantastic. Well, that is amazing. And listen, that's beautiful ideas. And even just to know that now is the time to get out in the garden and start planting those bulbs, and lots of different options that you can have for fantastic spring colour. Thanks very much as always, Trish. That is pretty much it from the Garden Show here on Radio Kerry. Thanks for listening, and of course do remember you can catch us on Facebook and YouTube to watch the video back anytime you like. Until next time, for myself, Trish, Dave and everyone here at the Garden Centre, happy gardening.